welcome to yet another episode of Beyond the Present podcast. My name is Daniel Morgan, and I'm joined here as always by Poochix from Toronto, Canada. Hey there, my man, how's it going?
Life is awesome. How are you?
I am doing terrific, and we have a new guest on board. Her name is Jaya, that is, Abi Habib, and she's now with us live. So, Jaya, please go right now and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm currently a student that goes to the University of Guelph in Ontario, Canada.
That's right.
And I'm currently studying animal science with the Bachelor of Agriculture.
Very nice. Animal science and the Bachelor's of Agriculture. So, first of all, Jay, why did you choose this major and this field of study?
So I had a really big interest in animals, but I was always open to the agriculture part of things. So like food production and farm animals and whatnot. So I wanted to have a little bit mix of both.
That's wonderful. And you are into food production. So are you a food lover like me? Because I just can't stop eating. Like literally, I have to eat something every 45 minutes. Otherwise, I just feel like something's, going out. So are you a food lover yourself? Do you eat a lot?
Yes.
I hope you don't have a weight problem, because I used to have a lot of weight problems in the past when I was eating, overeating, actually.
I'm actually one of these persons that could eat a lot and not gain any weight.
Oh, I am so jealous of you right now. That's like the best gift ever. Like, I remember once I talked to a friend of mine and I asked her, so if you had a superpower, and this was a lady, by the way, I asked her, if you wanted to have like a superpower, what kind of superpower do you want to have? And I was telling her, like, I would like to, I don't know, stop time and do these crazy things. And all she said was, I could just eat whatever I wanted and I would never get fat. Like that was like her wish for having a superpower. And you already, Jaya, have this superpower. So pretty good in that regard. So right now, let's get into our today's topic, which is quite relevant to your field of study, Jaya. And that is basically food waste and how we waste food and other types of material. So right now, first of all, I want to actually start with Poochix yourself. Poochix, would you right now go ahead and tell our listeners more about the subject?
Right. So I don't know the statistics of the matter. So the extent of my familiarity is like I always had this on my mind that what I care about is, okay, so food, if it goes to waste, there's so many people around the world who are aching for that food that sometimes I might throw out. So I should make a decision about it and, be more mindful of it. That was on a personal level. Then I later on realized this is actually more of a global problem, which I'm sure Jaya has a lot of studies to show us and talk about, and I'm very interested to learn.
Fantastic. So, Jaya, what exactly is your definition of food waste? I mean, what is food waste exactly from your perspective?
So essentially, I feel like there's two ways that people can waste food, and like we can waste food ourselves, but also if you're not the ones buying at the grocery store, like in the grocery store you'll have the good looking apple, and then you'll have an apple that has like maybe weird shapes and whatnot. You're going to be a consumer that picks up the good looking apple, and the one that doesn't have those nice features don't get sold. So at the end of the day, that either gets wasted, or I don't exactly know what the policies are, but like in Canada, it gets wasted. I think in Europe, they tend to try to save them and give them to food banks or charities for people who need them.
Interesting. So food waste is what is left over that cannot be sold?
Yeah, so this is one part of it, but it could also be like people who buy too much food and then end up cooking too much, and then that food ends up being wasted, or they don't essentially see everything that's in their fridge and they realize, 2 weeks later, I had carrots, and then they don't end up eating them. That goes to that gets composted or whatnot.
Well, that's pretty cool, because I don't think I've ever had the problem of food waste, because I just literally eat everything there's around me. Like if you look at my basically refrigerator, it just gets emptied right away, like after a few days. So fortunately, I don't have this problem. But let's be honest, this problem exists all around the world. And right now, we're going to talk about how serious this problem is and what are the consequences about this matter. Because in one of our episodes where we talked about the issue of global warming, it was mentioned there that like just meat itself is one of the biggest causes of global warming, especially the one that is taken from cows and whatnot. So now we're going to talk about how this will actually affect our lives, and look at it from a, bigger and wider perspective. So first I'm going to go here to Pujix. Pujix, do you have any food wastage problem? Or you're like me, like you almost clean everything?
I try to get, in all fairness, in a sense that I eat a lot. I'm probably not like you based on what I heard right now.
Unfortunately, that's one of my biggest problems. I know. That's right.
I actually do like to eat, and I do eat quite a bit. Like considering my size, I actually eat a lot. But on the other hand, every now and again, it would happen that I end up, as Jaya mentioned, for example, not noticing something I already had or stuff like that. Although I have become way more conscious of it in the past, say, 4 or 5 years. I have this influence. I have to thank my father. He is one of those people who doesn't throw out food no matter what.
That's wonderful. You gotta eat all of it. Now go ahead and lick that plate.
You eat that thing.
That's right. Very good.
So yeah, I'm getting better at it. It's a progress. I'm not perfect yet, but I'm more conscious of it, and I like to be. Hopefully.
That's wonderful. Now, Jaya, yourself, you study agriculture. You're into this whole subject. Do you yourself have this problem? Do you have a lot of food waste?
Unfortunately, I'm guilty of this problem, mainly because I live with 3 other girls.
Oh my gosh. 3 other girls in the same apartment. No wonder. And I don't think that food waste is just the only type of waste that is occurring in that apartment, right? That's right.
The thing about us is that we all get our separate things, so our fridge get really full, and then, you don't end up seeing what you have, and then you see it later, you forget about it, and then that gets wasted. Or you cook too much, so you'll make like a big batch of pasta. I always make that problem where I put a lot more pasta than I actually need, and then the next day you either don't want to eat it, or I don't know about you, but like I get tired if I eat pasta every day. So
I think that's all of our problems. That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So true. So true. It makes sense. And I just remember right now that I opened my refrigerator today, actually, and I realized that there was some basically banana that I have not eaten in a long time. So here's just one just popped in my head right now. What type of food actually is more likely to become food waste in the long run? Like, for example, if I have, let's say, some frozen meat, I mean, the chances of that becoming a food waste is a lot less than, let's say, banana, right? So, Pujix, if you right now, let me go to Pujix here. So, Pujix, if you look at your refrigerator right now, I mean, what type of food material are more likely to be converted into waste?
That is a good question. I suppose fruits are easier to.
I think so waste. Too.
I mean, this is. I don't know. I'm just going by my fridge's situation. So,
wow.
Because they either get dehydrated depending on what the fruit is, or for example with bananas they go black almost very quickly.
That's right.
Brown up that black. so I suppose I think again at the top of my head I think one of the things that seems to be going to waste is fruits a lot more than anything else.
Interesting. How about like dairy products? Because sometimes it's happened to me actually. And although once, I should be honest, like I accidentally, because I was on my way to basically my meeting. And at that time I was, of course, in Moscow because I do not unfortunately have a housemaid in Moscow to take care of everything in the kitchen. So I just accidentally left that basically refrigerator open. And when I got back, all my dairy were almost spoiled. It was like one of those biggest disasters, and I was like hungry and I wanted to like have some dairy. So that happens to me a lot. Let me move on here to basically Jaya. What do you think about the type of food that are more likely to become food waste?
Definitely fruits and vegetables, because those are the ones that get, like they go bad more easier than if you had I don't know, crackers or something open, or because if you like, okay, one thing is like never leave apples with bananas together because the bananas will go bad so much quicker than if you were to keep them separate.
Unfortunately, that's true. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Because I love banana. That's pretty weird.
It's actually because banana releases ethylene.
There's a reason for that. Oh my, I had no idea. I just assumed like it's my luck. All right, so.
It's actually because bananas releases ethylene, and then these two just don't go well together. But yeah, definitely fruits and vegetables, for sure. Because if you were to buy, the thing about vegetables is that if you buy too much, then you'd end up using the whole thing. Because for me, I go grocery shopping weekly, and then I'll buy as much as I need for the week. And I feel like also cooking with others, it helps out because, some people can use your things and whatnot, and then it doesn't end up going to waste if you end up using
Interesting.
it again.
That is so true. So now in the Beyond the Present podcast, we're very concerned about the future, and futurism is one of our basically foundation here in this podcast. So let me move on to Pujix here and ask him about what he thinks regarding the impact of food waste on our future as a species, basically. And is this a serious problem? Because in this, podcast, we talked about a lot of different, basically threats to humanity, including asteroids and, I don't know, weird, esoteric superbugs and many other, basically hazards. So, Pujix, do you think food waste is going to be a serious problem in the future?
Well, that's a good question, and I don't know if I'm that much read into the whole topic to be able to tell definitively. But I mean, of the top problems that we have, probably food waste is not one of the top three or whatever, but it still is a problem. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't address it and we shouldn't talk about it. And simply producing any kind of food, it requires energy and resources. And we are in a planet that is growing in population, and there's going to be ever more scarcity of resources. I'm not preaching any doomsday scenario, but it's just a simple math. You have a finite amount of resource. Obviously, we're getting better at optimizing and using those resources to better end. Well, this is part of it. We need to be able to make sure that we're not wasting the thing that we already produced, and it works, and it's like on a personal level and on a national or universal level. Like Jaya was talking about these weird shaping food which are perfectly healthy and normal. We just don't buy them, and then some groceries. So apparently, I mean, you can clarify on this, but then apparently Canada just throws them out.
Wow.
Like grocery stores across Canada. Well, that's a problem to me. Like. You can, if consumers are not, first of all, we can educate consumers, I suppose, to make them understand that there's nothing wrong with these fruits or vegetables. But on the other hand, I understand that if they're, for example, bringing them to put in front of their guests, I suppose it's better, the better looking one are better. But on the other hand, you see a lot of people who are aching for that little bit of food, whatever that may be, on the streets of Toronto, say. Not on a third world country. I'm not talking about that.
That's right.
So we can actually optimize that way.
You said something about the consumer behavior in Toronto, Canada, but here's a question I want to ask you right now, because I literally had a discussion with a friend of mine who also happens to live in Toronto, Canada, and she said, like, I literally went to the grocery store and I just ordered a lemon and an apple or a few other, fruits and vegetables, literally by the numbers. And it costed her I don't know, probably $70, $80 or something. So what my question here is, I mean, with these prices and high taxes, how can we have so much food waste? Because isn't that a financially somehow it doesn't make any financial sense from my perspective, actually go out there and buy all these fruits and vegetables when we know this actually go to waste.
Yeah, well, on a personal financial, it could be a problem if you're in a low-income family, maybe lower middle class, I suppose. But if you're middle class and more than average income, no, it wouldn't be a financial burden for you. It's not that bad, but depends on where you compare it with. But then, it's more expensive in many areas. But I don't know how well off those people are, but statistics shows us that this happens. They actually
Interesting. Good point. Yeah. That's right. Let's move on now to Jaya here and ask her about what she thinks regarding this matter. So, Jaya, do you think that this issue of food waste could be a serious threat in the future?
I definitely think that this is not our number one problem for sure, but I do think that, a lot of people in the world go hungry, and one of the main reasons, because we waste so much food. And then, and the idea of having these ugly fruits and vegetables could potentially help food waste is because basically what these fruits and vegetables are is that they're grown on land, right? But some farmers don't end up picking them up since they don't fit in like Canada's or other countries' regulations. So they don't make it to the store. Wow. So a lot of people are not aware of that, right? But they've tried to come with this label called naturally imperfect, and what they do is that they sell them in big package, so you'll either get a larger quantity for the same price, or you'll get like maybe, I think a couple months ago, I bought a huge package of peppers. I think there was about 10 of them, and they're like a little bit smaller and a little bit weirdly shaped, but they were perfectly fine. I think I got them for like $2. And if you were to get regular big peppers, nicely, perfectly shaped, you can pay maybe up to like $5-6 for them. It could go up to like $7. So the thing is, if we're talking about people, who like low-income families, that would be perfect for them because it's perfectly safe, it's cheap. Why not use them, right?
Mm-hmm. Interesting. And you mentioned something about imperfect, basically fruits and vegetables and other type of food. So do you recommend, because that's one of my actual questions here, like, do you recommend using imperfect fruits and vegetables and other types of food material? I mean, is that a good solution from your perspective? Because then in that case, it will not be wasted by, let's say, the farmers or whatever, and this will reduce food waste?
Absolutely, because if we were to use these fruits and vegetables that don't get sold or don't even get picked up, if we were to bring them to market, because I know not every store has it, but if we would have essentially more fruits and vegetables available, so we wouldn't have to produce as much.
Interesting. But how about like the shape and the looks? I mean, let's be honest. Part of having, this amazing taste in the food is like having that nice view, right? I mean, it's part of the culinary arts. So for you, don't you yourself like mind getting this, I don't know, somehow deformed pepper or something else? Like, isn't that a problem for you personally?
Honestly, for me, I wouldn't care, simply because say if you were making a pie and you get a weirdly shaped apple, you're going to cut it up anyways. You're going to blend it into your pie. So what's the point, right? It's the exact same thing. It's perfectly edible, and it probably tastes the same.
Well, here's my question. Are you sure that the nutritional value of, let's say, an oddly shaped apple or orange or whatever, don't you think that there might be actually some problem with it in terms of the nutritional value, maybe some bacteria, something weird about it? I mean, don't you think that perhaps it might not actually be that healthy?
I think the only reason that they don't fit within regulations is just because of their looks and maybe color and shape. Because people have an idea of how it looks like. They go to the grocery stores and consumers are like, okay, this is what a perfectly good pepper looks like. But they don't look at the other ones. They don't think they want, because they don't know, right? If we were to tell them that this is perfectly fine, then I wouldn't see a problem with it. I don't think that there's any bad nutrition values or whatever within these fruits and vegetables. They're perfectly fine to eat, and they're a lot cheaper, so why not buy them?
Interesting. Let me move on to Poojas here. So Poojas, what do you think about, incorporating this strategy of actually buying imperfect fruits, vegetables, and other types of food material? Do you think that's okay with you personally?
Yeah, I personally don't have a problem. Specifically, when, for example, I was going to go with that example too, but say you want to make jam or pies, bakeries, or so these people can actually be able to buy these fruits and vegetables much cheaper, and then their end product would be much cheaper, so they have a better or either they can sell their product cheaper or they can make more profit out of it. So even if you look at it from the merely financial aspect, economical aspect, it still makes a lot of sense to incorporate these, given that they're not nutritionally any their deficiency to them. So I mean, at the end of the day, when you're eating an apple pie, you're not seeing any apple, whether that you don't see their shape or color or whatever. All you care about is the taste. And
well, here's my question to you personally, which is how often do you bake, I don't know, apple pies or make jams?
Oh, no. I was not talking about a personal choice. This is for
so
you have bakeries
because let's be honest, you're an example here. I think you live alone, right? So you have to cook your own meal, and we talked a lot about this in one of our Let's Talk editions about cooking and that kind of stuff. So you yourself, like, do you feel comfortable going to a store? And because guys, let's be honest, there's a social element to it, right? So you go to that store and you see like these other, for example, consumers and customers are just choosing, I don't know, let's say cool looking apples and I don't know, peppers or whatever. And then you're in the corner somewhere picking all the, all the waste and all the, imperfect fruits and vegetables. I mean, do you find that personally easy to do and appealing?
Oh yeah, so that again, I have to differentiate here. So if I have a guest over, I would want the perfect shaping fruit. That's for sure. I'm not gonna argue there. So what I meant is that, and I'm not a baker. I'm not gonna bake apple pies, but there are bakeries who are making tens of thousands, or not literally, but hundreds of apple pies a day, and it doesn't matter for them what type of apple, for example, you're picking
up.
Well,
of course, but what percent of the population? I mean, what I don't know about like Toronto or Canada. Or how many like bakeries do you have in Toronto? I mean, like we're talking about like mass consumption here, right? So, and that's of course for one thing.
Yeah, it might not be a big number, but right now we're looking at zero. Anything is better than zero.
Of course. But the other issue that you haven't yet addressed is about, the social pressure. I mean, like, forget about like having friends over. Let's say you actually do want to make your apple pie or whatever it is. Don't you personally mind, like, I mean, in terms of like how it affects your self-image or whatever, like going to a store and like ordering the weirdest looking, for example, apples or I don't know, whatever there is there. I mean, doesn't that, I mean, because we talk about like marketing here and we talk about like business, and it does have, I think, a level of impact here that maybe perhaps some people are too shy to do it.
Right. Yeah. No, I mean, I don't know on a personal level because I don't bake apple pies, so I don't have experience. But if I really know, it shouldn't matter to me if I know that there's no deficiency nutritionally, and I want to bake an apple pie. It shouldn't matter. Mm-hmm. It might. You have a good point. There's a social pressure, of course, and all that. But again, it is true if you're picking it and if it's cheaper, like. If I'm buying that apple, so if I can so let's say I'm baking an apple pie and I know there's nothing wrong with that food, and I know I can buy that apple cheaper, significantly.
That's right.
Then yeah, I would like to buy that, and I should hope so that other people would like to buy it too.
Fantastic. So, as we have repeatedly mentioned in our programs and the Beyond the Present podcast, we like to focus on solutions much more than we focus on the problem. So now let's dive deep into the various solutions we can find to address the issue of food waste. So, Jaya, this is your field of expertise. What are the other solutions that you propose in order for us to be able to somehow deal with this problem effectively?
Well, based on my paper that I wrote like last semester, basically, honestly, it depends within the person, right? Because I know a lot of apartments don't actually have compost facilities, and so these people don't end up composting, so that doesn't really help our issue. And then it just end up going in the garbage and whatnot. So if there was more compost, then that could help the environment for sure. I just really like the idea of like those ugly fruits and vegetables, because it would produce, you would have more fruits and vegetables available to consumers for better price, mm-hmm. and we wouldn't have to produce them, because they're already being produced within all the other ones, right? So that was one thing. If we're talking about, undeveloped countries, they personally don't have the resources that we have to reduce food waste. So like they are always, they go hungry easier because they don't have the resources that we have.
Let me ask you to stop you. Hold on a second. What do you mean by resources? What are these resources that are required to maintain this? Like, are you talking about like natural resources, technology, or maybe like perhaps the legal system? What are those resources exactly?
Technology is one thing for sure, but there's different kind of soil on Earth. So if we were to produce these kind of fruits and vegetables or anything like just produces or food anywhere like in undeveloped countries that have very dry soil, it's very hard for them to maintain it. It's very hard. Or, if we're talking about Canada itself, just as an example, northern Canada, their food is very expensive there, and they spend a lot more money on groceries because, say, a juice is going to be like $11 instead of $5.
Wow.
Yeah. So this happens because they don't have, they personally import their foods to be able to have it there. They can't really grow anything there because their soil is not it's not made to be, they don't have, we have a lot of land on Earth, but not all of it can be grown. We can't produce food with all the land we have on Earth.
Wow.
And one of the reasons for that is because most of the land on Earth is being used as pasture land, and pasture land is the land that we use to produce meat, for example. So with like cows and like sheep and whatnot.
That's right.
That land is specific for that reason, and for we can't produce crops on the same land. So that is one big thing. Is the land that we have on Earth.
And one more question just popped in my head right now, because we in one of our episodes we talked about vegetarianism versus like just eating meat. So do you think like adopting a new lifestyle and let's say becoming a vegetarian or vegan, do such decisions actually affect the amount of food waste that we have, or that has nothing to do with the amount of meat or vegetables that we consume?
Well, I know as our population is growing that there's going to be more demand for meat, 100%. But the thing is, are we going to be able to produce all that meat for everyone? The answer is maybe not. And does it affect food waste? I'm not entirely sure about that, but what I could tell you is that there's like alternatives that have came up, and I'm not sure that consumers are willing to try them. But one of the alternatives is that they're trying to make crickets.
Wow.
Like crickets cracker.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so like they're moving on from, beef and what takes a lot of time, a lot of maintenance, to potentially insects, right?
Wow.
And yeah, so I think there's one farm in Ontario that does that. They're pretty successful right now, and they're selling their products in grocery stores. So honestly, it depends on the consumer itself. Are they willing to buy it? I don't know.
Would you buy it yourself, Jaya? Would you buy it yourself?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I don't think so.
Wow.
But I've seen a video.
Yeah, I would rather be a vegetarian.
Oh my gosh.
I've seen a video where some girl is, trying these crickets out, and she's saying that they taste like crackers. So
oh my.
We never know, right? We never know.
The Chinese influence, that's pretty cool. I'm pretty sure right now, look at Chinese people. China right now doesn't do that. You see in America, we have everything. In China, they eat crackers. I mean, this is just the reality of the issue, man. But overall, I mean, I appreciate their effort, but generally, I would personally pass. I mean, I'm not going to try that at all.
Yeah, no, 100%. I think me neither. But the thing about it is that what we don't know, like what consumers don't know that live in North America, is that a lot of people are actually already eating insects, and it's part of their daily life.
Excuse me? What do you mean, Jaya? I have never eaten any insect in my entire life. At least I hope not.
I'm talking about like countries in Asia. You know, they already imply that in their.
But you
name,
mentioned
right?
in North America, like these are like Asian immigrants who are living in North America, or like it's like there's like
no,
insect food
not in North
conspiracy that they're
America.
putting it inside of our pies or like hamburgers.
I think they're trying to find alternatives to that. Like another alternative would be like lab-grown meat.
You got to be kidding me! New entries for basically McDonald's and KFC in the future.
I don't know.
I'm all for lab-grown meat. The lab-grown meats are amazing. Like
excuse me,
meat.
Would you please right now, just tell me what is exactly lab-grown meat and what's the difference between like a typical natural meat?
Oh, so first of all, I have to say this is not yet scaled to economics. Like it's not economically viable yet, but it's on the trajectory. So what you do is basically you bring in the cells from, say, the cow, the muscle that you want. So for example, you want wings from the chicken. You bring the cells, you culture them, you grow them, and then you will grow that part of the meat without even having the animal.
This seems really, really unhealthy and scary. I don't know. I'm not an expert, but this seems like fucking cancer, man. Like they literally, it's like cancer meat. Like we have caused cancer on one cell, and here's the meat. Eat all the tumor.
So if anything, it's actually more healthy because to me it sounds like this. First of all, you have that chicken. You can think of it as a factory that's producing that portion of the meat.
That's right.
It's extremely inefficient, and there's animal going through all the misery if you care about those kind of stuff. So, but now you come and bring the same process that the body of that chicken makes to produce that wing, but you do it very focused and on a certain level. So that's just the meat that you're producing. So you're way more efficient. It's the same meat, it's the same cells that are turning into that bunch of combination of cells. And at the same time, it seems like this. I understand your reserve. I had those reserves, but when I read into this, now think about cows. Right now, what people usually say when they say, "Okay, I rather eat cow than those lab-grown food." It's basically like this: like you rather have that meat that an animal is going through pain, slaughtered. There's blood involved everywhere. That's better than a clean meat with the same procedure that is just focused on producing that portion of the meat that you want to eventually eat. Ultimately, there's no, at least to the extent, and scientifically to the extent that we know, there's no problem with that. It's just about bringing it to the scale of make it economical. Which you can be a vegetarian. So in that sense, you can be a carnivore. You can eat meat and not have any or relatively little impact to the climate as well. So.
Wow. So one question: have you eaten basically lab-made meat yourself, Pujix?
No, they're extremely expensive at this point. So for a meatball, you have to pay thousands of dollars.
Oh my goodness. Wow. I prefer to stick with typical McDonald's, much easier. I remember when the government got shut down, Trump invited a lot of people to have McDonald's. It was pretty good. But for now, do you think this might actually be used? Because in one of our, if you remember, episodes in the past, we talked about living in Mars and traveling to other countries and whatever. Do you think we would actually use this technology in the future to create meat, let's say, in other planets?
Yeah, I think that would be very possible. All you need is a 3D printer, culture of those cells.
Excuse me, 3D printer? You gonna print meat? I had no idea there was a printer involved.
So, there are different ways actually you can make them. Some of them involve 3D printing, some of them don't.
You gotta be kidding me, man. Come on, I'm gonna stick with normal stuff, man. You're scaring, and you're saying that costs a shitload of money. You gotta print that meat.
Actually not evolved yet, so yeah.
Oh my goodness. So, Jaya, let me move on to you right now. Have you heard anything about these lab-made food that might actually reduce food wastage? Or perhaps, have you heard anything about like food engineering that, I don't know, some sort of apple that lasts for years and doesn't have to be like in a refrigerator? Like, what do you think about food engineering when it comes to the prevention of food waste?
Okay, so in regards to lab-grown meat, I think I wrote a discussion about it. I don't remember much about it, but all I know is that, like Pouya said, it's perfectly healthy, and like it does benefit the animal if you do care about, animal welfare in terms of, slaughtering. Like I think a lot of people, the reasons that they go towards to being vegetarians because they don't like the fact how animals treated, or but for sure that it's perfectly healthy. I think the only problem with it is that it's tasteless, and I think that's what people are saying is that
excuse me, the only problem. Are you trying to? They're saying the only problem is it is tasteless. So what's the point of eating that if that's the only problem?
I mean, you could always add spices.
Oh my goodness! The only. How about like nutritions? Like the only problem, it has no taste and no nutrition.
I'm not too sure about the nutrition.
Like proteins, for example. I'm like Pujix doesn't have any nutrition.
In terms of nutrition, it's all fine, all good. You're fine. And with respect to taste, what they mean is that gross taste that you don't want in the meat. So if I give you a raw meat with absolutely no spice, like a cow meat, you're not going to eat that. Trust me, you're never going to eat that. So that is a taste that is less dominant. And again, I'm not too educated on this, but we actually don't know what is causing. Again, I'm not up to date on literature. Maybe we do, but at least to the extent of my knowledge, I don't think we know that what is causing those tastes. Maybe it's some of the hormones in the body of the animal that is not being translated in this process.
But it's wonderful, man. I love the taste of this, the steak that I eat every, let's say, weekend. I mean, from my perspective, if you take that out, it's like, here's your steak. It has no taste. It costs $10,000 per gram and probably no nutrition. And maybe it can kill you because of cancer. I mean, dude, come on, seriously.
Oh my God.
Yeah, well, no. On the health side, I'm pretty sure there's no downside to the extent of our knowledge so far.
Okay.
On the taste side, I still understand that some people might want that traditional taste, and that's fine. But down the roads, when you get used to the new one, I don't think anybody would want to go to the other one. Like with newer generations coming on and just being exposed to that kind of meat, they're not going to have any problems with that. Wow. I don't assume. It's just
that's wonderful.
Developed taste bud.
Fantastic. Yeah. So, go ahead, Jaya.
And when I said when I said 3D printing, I mean that's a different method, but you can also 3D print meats. Well, at least theoretically, that's possible in the future.
You're just scaring me right now, Pujix, literally, because the last time I heard about 3D printing is when my friend wanted to just print a frigging gun, literally a gun. That's a different story, man. But meat. Please give me a break. All right. Jaya, you want to say something?
I think it all depends on, people themselves, right? Are they willing to actually have this lab-grown meat, right? Because if they're not able to get consumers to buy it, then it will never be an actual thing. It'll just be like an experiment or whatnot. But yeah, then again, I think like Pouya said, it doesn't have the actual taste that meat has, but in terms of animal welfare, it is definitely healthier, and animals don't have to go through anything. It's very easy to make. It's a lot quicker, I think, and it's a lot less maintenance. So that's one thing for sure.
That's wonderful. Fantastic. So we're running out of time here. Pujix, is there any question you want to ask?
Oh, no.
That's right. Since we're running out of time here, now that we've talked about this issue, and I was introduced to a lot of interesting concepts, including lab-made meat. Oh, my goodness. What's going to be our future as a species? So with that being said, now let's try to
lab meat.
That's right. Let's try to wrap up our show and reach a conclusion. So first, you Pujix, after all of our today's discussion regarding the concept of food waste, what is now your final comment?
It doesn't mean that you have to go to zero waste of food. I haven't, and I don't think it's necessarily feasible. But it means that you can reduce it as much as you can. You can be more conscious of it, and you can basically, optimize on your food consumption. If you can make food with a bunch of people and share, that's amazing. Let's do that. A lot of different methods. Obviously, people can be creative about what method they can use, but then ultimately, the amount of food, whether it's cooked, whether it's vegetable, whether it's gone bad, whatever, you're not consuming and throwing away. That's a problem, obviously. And there's a lot of people out there in the world, in any single country in the world, you can find at least a handful of them, probably a lot more, that are going hungry every night, and that can save them. Obviously, we need to mobilize that. That's a more public measure, like a government level measure, which can be addressed on a public forum. But ultimately, anybody can do their own fair share, as little as it seems, and hope for the best of our little planet.
Wow.
Tomorrow.
Very well said. And let's move on now, Jaya. So, Jaya, what is your final thought after all of our discussions regarding this issue?
Yeah, I agree with what Pouya said. So basically, if you were to do it yourself, yeah, it's very small. But if everyone around you, try to save as much food as possible, try to eat it all, or try to be more conscious when they go grocery shopping, they think, okay, I only need this much, I don't want anything else to go bad. If it will eventually add up, and then that little thing becomes bigger, and then, it will help in the long run. So just little things that you could do every day, just like composting, or try to buy as much as you need, be more conscious about it, cook together. So I think that these things will really help in the long run for sure.
Wow, that's wonderful. Yeah. And thanks to both of you for your great ideas. Of course, there were a lot of shocking moments that I experienced today, basically, from a variety of things, including that lab mate. Oh my gosh, at least come on, give me some taste. I mean, at least add strawberry to make it look cool. I don't know, really.
We'll figure out what makes that taste, and I'll give it to you.
That's right. Very well. Fantastic. And that's all the time we have for. To all of our listeners out there, I want to thank you so much for your support, as well as all of the ideas you can actually share with us regarding on how we can improve the quality of our future programs. Thank you very much. This was Beyond the Present podcast, and my name is Daniel Mulligan. Thank you very much.